Hi. Okay, so we're ready to start Solving the Mystery of Reading, Chapter 7. So go get your book and get your study guide and pause this tape if you need to. All right. Chapter 7 is all about word parts which give us clues to meaning. Okay, parts of words actually carry meaning. And so word parts attached to the root are called affixes. Okay, we're going to come back to affixes in just a minute. First, I just want you to know that every word has a root, which means every word has a main part that carries the basic meaning of the word. For example, the word code. We can add affixes, which means we add things to the beginning or the end of the word and kind of change the word. So in this case, I added D to the beginning and to the end. Okay, so the root of this word is still code, but by adding D and I changed it to decoder. Okay, D means remove, means person, and so a decoder is a person that removes codes. All right, that's kind of tricky, but I at least just want you to get the basic understanding that every word has a root, and the root is the main meaning of the word. Okay, or the root is the main part of the word. All right, so, and what I just said is the root is the main part. It's on page 148. So why don't you turn to that page right now? Okay, so here are some examples of roots in words, okay? In the word reality, the root is real. Maybe I should use a different color. The root is real. Okay, in the word illegal, the root is legal. In the word impossible, the root is possible. Okay, so these other parts, like the ITY, that's an affix. The ill is an affix. Im is an affix. That means it got added on to the root of the word. On page 149, it talks about spelling changes. So sometimes there are spelling changes when you add affixes. Okay, for example, if I took the word confuse and made it confusion, or vice versa, if I took confusion and made it confuse, first of all, our root is confuse. When it becomes confusion, you remove the E and you add ION. So this is still our root, but this affix made the spelling of confuse change a little bit. So if you were looking up the word confusion in a dictionary and say you couldn't find it, Jen talked about finding words in the dictionary. Sometimes you may have to adjust the word that you're looking for. So if you can't find confusion, you might have to look up confuse. And so then you also may need to know that the spelling could be different from confusion to confuse. We'll talk a lot more about this in class, and we'll practice it in class together too. But another example is the word energize and energy. So the root word is energy, but it becomes energize if we add this affix. Okay, so IZE is an affix. But you can see the spelling changes a little bit because there's no Y in this word. They changed it to IZE. Okay, but you get that there are spelling changes. Okay, on pages 150 through 152, you have boxes of common roots. So I just want you to look over those. You won't be able to memorize them all, and you don't have to memorize them all. But again, the more you read, the more you write, the more you use these, the more they'll just become part of your memory. Okay, there are two kinds of affixes. Okay, the first kind is prefixes. Those are attached at the beginning of the word. And then there are suffixes that are attached at the end. We're going to talk about prefixes first. All right. On page 155, there is a box of common number prefixes. So some examples are tripod, Anyone know what tri means? 3. Okay, so we know that a tripod is a pod that's on 3 legs. All right, these I think that you'll already know. The number ones most of us know. Bifocals, okay, so we're looking at the prefix bi, it means 2. Focals, in case you don't know what they are, they're glasses. So bifocals are glasses with 2 lenses. All right, and then the word unicorn, then we all know what that is. So uni means 1, probably the big horn on the unicorn's head is what they're talking about. So uni means 1, unicorn, we know what that is. On page 157, there is a box with common negative or opposite prefixes. For example, mispronounce. This is negative or opposite. So if we just have the word pronounce, we know what that means. If we mispronounce something, that's a negative. So it means we pronounced it wrong. All right, another word is unfriendly. We know what friendly means. If someone is unfriendly, it's negative, so it means they're not friendly. All right, so you don't have to memorize all of these. Again, the more we use them, the more you read, the more you write, you just start to know these things automatically. On page 158, there are spelling rules. I don't expect you to memorize these, but I do want you to look at them on page 158, and then we'll go over them more in class together. You don't have to memorize them, but please look at them now and be a little bit familiar with them when you come to class next time. All right, on pages 160 and 161, there is a box of suffixes that name people. Okay, for an example, they have, oh, I'm sorry, you know what I didn't tell you is that I just went from prefixes to suffixes. So prefixes were at the beginning of the word, and suffixes are added to the end of a word. Okay, that's really all you need to remember about that. What would be the suffix ist? If I add it to the word cycle, it becomes cyclist, and then we know that we're talking about a person who rides a bicycle or a motorcycle, some kind of cycle. Okay, if I add the suffix er to the word teach, it becomes teacher, and we all know what that is, right? Okay, but they're talking about, these are lists of suffixes that talk about people. All right, on, let's see what page, I think it's still page 160 and 161. There are suffixes for nouns. So remember, a noun is a person, place, or thing. And a suffix example would be the suffix ness. So if we added ness to the word sad, it makes it sadness. Sadness is a thing. I'm going to erase these as I go along because I think it will be easier for you to understand. If you need to look at it again, just pause the tape. Okay. Then there are suffixes for verbs. Okay, remember verbs are action words. So an example of a suffix would be IZE. If you take the word modern and add "-ize" to it, it means modernize, and that means to make something modern. So that would be an action word, modernize. All right, I'm going to erase this because I kind of wrote close together. Okay, next there is a box in your book for suffixes for adjectives. Okay, remember adjectives are words that describe. So if we take the suffix full and add it to the word thank, it becomes thankful. And if I said, I am thankful, then I'm describing myself as thankful. Okay, so that's an example of an adjective suffix. Erase that. Now, a suffix that names adverbs, there is a box for those too. And remember that adverbs describe verbs and adjectives. Okay, so I think it only gives you one example in your book, in the box. It shows you how to add the suffix "ly" to an adjective. So simple is an adjective because it describes. And if you add "ly" to it, you get the word simply. Simply is an adverb. Okay, so again, you don't have to memorize all of these. They just give you boxes of the common ones so you can look at them and become familiar with them, which I would like you to do before you come to the next class. Okay, there is just one more thing that I want to talk about, and that is word families. Word families are, well, first let me back up and say that words are like families because they have histories and they have relatives, and many are related. So I just want to show you one example. If we take the word educate and we add this suffix to it, then we get the word educating. Okay, ing is a suffix because it's added to the end. If we add the suffix shun, then we get the word education. Again, it's a suffix because we added it to the end. If we add or to the word educate, then we get the word educator. Okay, so these are all suffixes because we added them to the end. If we add, okay, in this case we're going to add a prefix and a suffix. All right, we're going to add the prefix prefix goes like this. Prefix and the suffix ed. So we're going to write the word as uneducated. So here's our prefix, here's our suffix, and it makes the word uneducated. Okay, because we already know the meaning of the word educate, it's easy then for us to know what educating, education, educator, and uneducated means. So these are called word families. It's when you make lots of words out of one root. Okay, so our root word was educate in all of these. All right, so that's the end of chapter 7, and I'll see you on the next video. I gotta stop for a second because I forget about spelling changes. I just didn't make exact sense, but so some examples are suffixes that name people. An example, there's 2 E's, right? Okay, I gotta look. I'll just cut all that part out, but
Because it looks funny.
I know.